Hello, Carla. Yeah, working now. It just sometimes when you just go in, the sound just doesn't work. I have a new stream up and running, and sound is fine. It just no reason. Um, yeah, I've just set it up now. I'm pretty sure it's working, and I can see the green bars from my voice. It just does that sometimes. It's just really annoying. Okay, perfect. Thanks. No worries. Bye. Okay, well, hi, Michelle. Yeah, can hear me now. Sorry about that. I'll just give it a couple of minutes for everyone to tune in. Unfortunately, just the way with technology is, sometimes the sound just doesn't come through at the start. Very annoying. But hopefully everyone can find us okay on this link. So just going to give it a few. Don't want to rush in. I know people might just be finding the stream, so I'll just give it a couple of minutes there. Up and running, Mary. Great to have you with us, Mary Claire. Thanks again for finding the link as well. As I said, just sometimes when you tune in at first, the sound just doesn't pick up. No explanation. It just doesn't. So very welcome along to our Staying Well While Staying Home. This is a collaboration between Seal Blue Ireland and the Irish Cancer Society. So you're very welcome along to this morning's class. All we want, I always say, just have yourself a good sturdy chair. You can perform the session entirely standing or seated, but either way, if standing, I think it's just worth having a sturdy chair in terms of balance, something to use as support if needed. In terms of weight, so if we have a couple of weights, that's great. If you don't have weight, you can use 2 filled water bottles, tins, anything at all that can give you a little bit of weight and challenge. The main thing is just do everything at your own comfort. I know everyone is at a different stage in terms of building up. Maybe we're very competent with our exercise routines, or maybe we're just kind of building up and this is all quite new to us. So just work at your own pace. There's no pressure, will be the main thing. Any movement that causes pain, just to leave that out. So that's probably enough from me. Just checking in. Have we got a couple in there? So we'll get started. And again, apologies for the little glitch at the start. Hopefully all good now. So I'm going to start leading this warm up in a standing position, but by all means, perform it seated if you prefer. So very simple to start. I just want to get the shoulders moving. It's generally where I'll start with my warm-ups. Just lifting up and rolling back, just to get those shoulders moving. I like to think of separating the shoulders from the rest of my body. So just lifting up, back and down. Rolling my shoulders back. Just getting those shoulders moving. Okay, so just lift. Thinking kind of all 4 directions. Forward, up, back and down. Just to get those shoulders moving. Just nice when we start. I think we can generally be, most people are a little bit tight and stiff in the upper body. Now, changing direction and rolling those shoulders forward. So again, this is just to get as much movement as I can. And I think of my shoulders separate to the rest of my body. Just getting those shoulders moving forward in circles. And down. Now, if I bring arms across chest, pull back nice and wide and back in. So just think again, opening up my chest, squeezing shoulder blades together, and even just connecting with those shoulders a little bit here. Pull back nice and wide, back in. I think a nice kind of wide W shape. So if you look from my right hand to left hand, there's a big wide W shape, just squeezing back, squeezing shoulder blades together, opening out my chest. And down. Now, next, I'm going to bring hands to my shoulders, lifting right elbow, lifting left elbow. So this little kind of cluster of movement here, I just really find helpful in terms of upper body. If we feel a little bit tight, a little bit stiff, really nice movements just to open everything up. Now, if that feels comfortable, progressing and lifting the 2 elbows up together, lifting my 2 elbows in front, And then pause, keep the elbows elevated, open the right elbow, open the left elbow, one at a time, opening out to my side, right elbow and left elbow. And very welcome if you're just tuning in, just warming up. So you're very welcome along. Not missed anything yet, just warming ourselves up. Opening out one elbow at a time, and then progressing into the two elbows together, just opening out to your sides, lifting those two elbows from front to sides. And back down. Perfect. Really good stuff there. Now, I'm just going to take it into a march just to start warming my body up. And that is the purpose of my warm-up, bringing heart rate up, warming my body, just loosening out all the joints before we get into our main movements. Chair is alongside me here if I want as well. And what I want to do next is just to lightly kick the legs out. Just kicking the legs out. If you're in a seated position, just to extend the legs. And then if we just bring it back to a march again, just warming myself up. And then again, just lightly extend or just kicking the legs out in front. And again, that's why my chair is here, just if I want for a little bit of support on this one as I kick the legs out. And then just returning it back to a march, nice and light. Next movements that I want to do is just to dig the heels out. So I'm just getting a little stretch of my calf, back of the lower legs, digging the heels out. Right and left, just digging the heels out. And then just bringing it back to a nice light march. Just keeping myself moving now, warming myself up. And now I want to stretch the toes out in front. So I'm just pointing those toes down to the floor, tapping out, just pointing toes down to the ground. I'm going to do one final movement in my warm-up, which is the ankle. So again, I have my chair here for a little bit of support, right foot up, and I just slowly bring the foot around in circles. And this is just really important, I find, before we get into our little aerobic block of work, just that the ankle feels good, loosened out. It's not too tight and stiff before I get really moving. And then change direction, nice and slow with those circles. Again, just very welcome along. Anyone tuning in, just warming up, you're very welcome along. And swap sides. Left foot is up, slowly around in circles. Nice and slow around in circles. And changing direction. And nice and slow. And down. Perfect. Okay. That's our warm-up completed. What I want to do is push into our main aerobic block of work. So I'm going to put our timer on here. The purpose of this is just think working our heart, working our lungs. Think effort-wise, this is equivalent to a brisk walk, being on a treadmill, being on a bike. So there's a little bit of intensity to this work. The idea is we keep ourselves moving and we're not really pausing at any point. So I'm going to set our clock. Just going to begin now. So what I want us to do, first movements, I want us to bring our arms out by our sides. I'm going to set this off and I'm just going to tap right hand to my left knee. And I just want to go with that one plane of movement. Arms out by my side, right hand to left knee. If I feel uncomfortable, unbalanced, I hold on to my chair. If I still don't like that, or if we're choosing to do this seated today, I want you to go for exactly the same movement in a seated position. Right hand across the left knee. Not too worried about physical touch. Just bring that hand towards the knee, as close as comfortable. Again, we're just getting a feel for the movements. We can start to push a little bit harder as we go along. We'll just get a feel for every movement in this first round. Making sure we feel strong and balanced. And now into a march. Okay, so the purpose of these marches in between each movement is just to give you a chance to recover. We've only started, so I feel good. But as we go along, we might need to slow that march down and just catch our breath. So if ready, arms out again. Now I go opposite side, left hand to right knee. So I'm just tapping across. Again, I'm just feeling my way into this movement. I don't need to go crazy fast on this first round. Just easing your way in, getting a feel for every movement, what's comfortable and what's not. So again, if I felt in any way uncomfortable or unbalanced, I would hold on to my chair for support, or I would do this in a seated position in exactly the same plane of movement, arms out and tapping left hand to right knee. So it can be very easily adapted and performed in a seated position if you prefer. I'm giving myself a little bit of challenge. There might be a little pant in my voice as I go along, maybe a little bit red, light sweat, but nothing uncomfortable or painful as I return back to a march. I'll never become so breathless that I can't speak. I would find it difficult to sing a song, for example, but I can still get words out, I can still talk, and that's a good indication that I'm giving myself a challenge, but it's not too much. Next movement, again, chair important beside me here. What I want to do is just lift the right arm and leg. So I'll just focus on my right side here. Right arm, right leg. Again, chair is here for support if I need, and very easily performed in exactly the same movement, seated position if you prefer. Nothing changes, you just perform the same movement, right arm and knee lifting up. So I'm focusing on one side. This is where I just focus on one side, my right side, lifting the arm and leg, a little bit of purpose and intensity. You can hear that little bit of challenge in my voice. Right arm, right leg. And back to march. So our movements today, they are going to work the hips, and we're bringing a little bit of upper body in as well. And again, anyone just tuning in there, very welcome along. We're just on our aerobic block of work, so just kind of ease yourself in. Now, left arm, left leg. Let's go. Again, if I felt unbalanced, I would hold a chair. If I prefer, I perform this seated. Remember, this is our first round of the aerobic work, so just get a feel for the movement. I don't want you to go so fast that it's uncomfortable, that you're not happy with it. Just get a feel for the movement, see what way you want to perform it. And then in our second and third round, we'll repeat these same movements, and we can go at a kind of level that's good for us in terms of intensity. Left arm and left knee. My opposite arm just kind of flows naturally back then. So just purposely lifting my left arm and left knee. Last couple of seconds. And back to march. So that's your first round. We'll not stop. We'll keep ourselves moving. Anything that's painful, uncomfortable, immediately just to leave it out. You may prefer to perform them seated. If everything feels okay, let's go ahead, give ourselves a good challenge. Again, I want a little bit of challenge, but nothing that's too uncomfortable, okay? So back to the start. Arms out, right hand over to my left knee. I'm keeping the arms out just for a little bit of extra challenge, and I'm tapping across. Right hand, left knee. The pace and intensity is important, that you go at a level that's comfortable. It's not about matching exactly the speed I go. I'm going at a kind of intensity and speed that's comfortable for me. I'm giving myself a challenge, but that does not mean you have to be at exactly the same pace. You might need to slow this one down a little bit, and that's absolutely fine. Some people might be a little faster, some might be a little bit slower. Just find a level that's good for you. A little bit of challenge, but in control. Back to march. So now as we start to go along, this is, for example, I could slow my march right down, catch my breath, air in, air out, or continue at a good intensity with that march if it all feels comfortable. Main thing is we're moving all the time. Now, arms out again, and now it'll be right hand over to my left knee. Just tapping across. Okay, so I'm just tapping across. Again, just going at a pace that's comfortable to you. It's not about matching the exact. Find a level that's giving you a good challenge. You feel a little bit of intensity. I think you are noticing that you're working hard, but you're not completely breathless. You're not in any kind of discomfort here. Slow the pace down if you need. Again, we're working those hips particularly hard, and we're bringing the upper body into the movement. But the purpose overall is aerobic as we return to march. As I say, equivalent to a brisk walk, being on a treadmill, being on a bike. That's the kind of intensity we're looking for. So lots of movement, really good stuff so far. Okay, so next, right arm and right leg. Chairs here for support if I want. Right arm, right leg. I'm just going to get those two lifting. My upper body stays straight. I'm not bending forward here. I keep a nice strong position. And again, my chair is here if I want. And I perform exactly the same movement if in a seated position. Driving that right knee up, lifting the arm as well. Just showing a couple from the side how that might look. Right arm, right leg. You can hear in that voice a little bit of a pant in my breath now, but I can still talk, I can still communicate. It's not so hard that I'm completely breathless. So a challenge is good, but still in control. Doing really well. And back to march. So again, if you're finding the pace is getting a little bit tough, use this march to slow it right down. You can bring it right back to a walk. Air in, air out, just catch your breaths. And again, anything you prefer, performing it seated instead. 3, 2, 1, left arm, left leg. And again, just drive the knee up and lifting the left arm as well. So left arm and leg. I'm breathing all the time, just never holding my breath on the movement. Always air in and air out. Again, I'm getting a nice challenge here. And again, you're just on the clock for a block of time with a particular movement like this, driving left arm and leg. Broken up with marching in between, where you can just slow the pace down a little bit if needed. So continuing this movement, left arm, left leg. About 10 seconds here. And back to march. 2 rounds finished. You've 1/3 and final round. If you need to change anything, maybe now you're really feeling the pace, slow it down. Or maybe you started standing and want to perform this round seated. Anything can be changed. Maybe you started seated and want to try a little bit standing. These are all little things that you're in control of and you can change. So back to the start, arms out. Right hand over to my left knee. Okay, so I have the arms out and I'm tapping across. If I felt unbalanced, I'm just going to hold on to my chair. If I'm in a seated position, nothing changes. The movement is exactly the same. Tapping arms out, tapping right hand over to your left knee. Just mindful, particularly when standing, that we feel balanced, not going so high with that knee lift or so fast that you feel in any way unbalanced. Very important. Just keep yourself in control. Good challenge, but in control all the way. And back to march. Again, this is your 3rd final round. If you're finding the pace a little bit tough, slow this march right down. Catch your breath in between those movements. Or if it's feeling very comfortable, just continue to march your way at a nice strong pace. Couple of seconds, 3, 2, 1, setting up again, arms out. Now it's my left hand over to right knee. Again, if I felt unbalanced, I would hold my chair. If I prefer, I perform this movement seated. Same movement, left hand over to my right knee. Now, it doesn't matter if we don't kind of perfectly touch or make physical contact, just going across, roughly from point A to B of hand towards knee. Breathing all the time. We're approaching into the last couple of movements, but I would always say, whether it's your first exercise or your last, if you feel you need to rest, take a breather, then you do so. I don't just force it out just because I'm near the end. So take a full rest if needed, or slow that pace right down if needed. If you're getting on okay with everything, brilliant. We'll just keep going, finishing out our final 2 movements. I think in the overall context here, we're moving for a good block of time and a good intensity, really building up that endurance in our lungs. So next again, right arm, right leg. So just driving that right knee up and my arm flowing with the movement. Right arm, right leg. Again, chairs here if I want. Seated position, nothing changes. Right arm, right knee, just driving them up, giving yourself a good challenge, but in control. I feel strong, I feel balanced. You can hear a little pant in the breath. No, I'm working, but I'm still in control of everything. I'm not completely breathless. I'm not pumping sweat, anything like that, but I am getting a good challenge. Last couple of seconds. And back to march. Okay, so you have one final movement left. Really brilliant stuff so far. Again, just keep doing everything at your own pace. I know I say it a lot, but it just really is important. I think naturally when you look at a screen, the tendency is to try and match the speed, but everyone going at their own pace that's good for them. So final movements, left arm and leg. Again, if I felt in any way unbalanced, I'm holding a chair by my side. Or if I prefer, I'm performing this in a seated position. Left arm, left leg. Okay. Again, there's a nice challenge here. I'm working hard, but I'm still in control of everything as I lift that left arm and leg. Again, not lifting so high or so fast that it gets kind of uncomfortable or messy, this movement. Just keep in control. So drive that left knee and arm. Last couple of seconds. And rest. Okay, so let's just lightly walk it out. And that was really good work. Good block of aerobic work again. Think of that challenge, building up endurance. As I say, the easiest way I think to describe it is just like a brisk walk, a really brisk walk, being on a bike, being on a treadmill where you're moving, giving yourself that challenge. A lot of work on the hips just by the nature of the movements of lifting the knees. And we added a little bit of upper body challenge into some of the movements too. So brilliant work. And let's grab a drink of water. So that's your aerobic block of work done. And as I say, just building up that endurance in the lungs. And what we will do next is move into a block of strength work. So this is more specifically about strengthening muscle, bone in the body, keeping our muscles strong. In no rush, just take a breather, catch your breath. Really excellent work there. You can hear that in my, that's why I keep saying about the voice. So you can hear that pant in my voice that tells you that I was moving there, that I was working hard, but I'm not. Like I would struggle to sing right now, but I can talk. I'm not completely breathless. Nothing was uncomfortable or painful for me. So I'm going to set up for our strength work now. We'll start shortly. So what we want, again, have your chair at the ready. And if we have 2 weights, if you don't have weights, remember again, you can use bottles of water, tins, anything that gives you a little bit of resistance is fine. So it doesn't have to be 2 perfect dumbbells, anything at all. And we will use the chair for some of these exercises. So movement number 1, there's no rush. We still have about 20 seconds before we begin. The movement I want to perform is a sit to stand with arm curl. So I'm going to hold the weights by my side, my feet in a strong position. I'm forward in my chair. I lean, stand up nice and tall, curling the weights, and then I'll sit back to my chair. If that's uncomfortable, extend your leg and curl at the same time. So extend the leg, and curl if you're not happy with this standing version. But if so, we stand up, curl the weights, and back down. I'm keeping my upper body straight, so my back isn't bending. And I'm turning this into a sit to stand today, just particularly on this first round, just to make sure you're okay with the mechanics of this movement. My feet are hip width apart. My knees stay in line with my toes, so they're never caving in. And my upper body is straight, so I'm not bending as I stand forward. I think leaning forward, nice strong upper body, pressing through the heels of my feet, so generating power up through my legs. And then I'm curling with my two weights as I stand up with that little rotation. Curl, back down. So a lot in that movement. We'll get one more. And back down. Okay, so I'm going to rest my two weights down. We're going to move into a hip movement specifically next. So holding on to the back of my chair, the action will be lifting the leg out. So if you're not comfortable with that in a standing position, as I pause my clock, you could take seated position and just lift or step the leg out instead. Not dragging the foot, always lifting. But if we're okay standing, I'm going to lead that movement. So I'm holding the back of my chair, my body, upper body stays straight, and I begin lifting that right leg out. My toes are forward to the camera, and I'm lifting the leg out. And I'm just focusing on this one side. I don't want to swap side to side. I want to put all the work through one side first. So we're going to give ourselves a good challenge, and the purpose is really working the hip with this movement. And when we work for a long block of time like this, what starts maybe as an easy movement might start to get a little bit harder. I want you to open as far as you can from that hip without losing shape. So I'm not leaning to the side. That won't really benefit the hip anymore. So keep that body straight and open as far as you comfortably can, keeping that strong position. That's a couple of seconds. And rest. So we shake it out. So we're about 60 seconds on the clock per movement. And then we have about 25 just to set up, reset for the next part of the movement. So there's no rush, there's no panic to get into the next movement. So I'm just going to walk it out, just shake the legs out and then set up. Holding my chair, body is tall, and let's begin. Left leg out and back in. So again, my toes face forward to the camera. I lift my leg out and that upper body keeps its shape. So I'm never tilting. I don't want this to happen. It won't actually work the hip any harder. And that's where I want the challenge, is in that hip. As I lift the leg out, keeping my body strong. Again, if I find this movement is difficult, we can perform it seated. Remember, just opening that leg out from a seated position. While standing, we can make it easier or harder. I'm not really resting as I come back. I just lightly tip the floor and then straight back out. But if you're finding it's getting tough, just pause the foot for a second and then lift it back out. About 10 seconds continuing here. Lifting my left leg out. And rest. Brilliant stuff. Next, I'm going to set this up from the side. I just want one weight for this next movement. Set up. I'm going to stand about a foot away from my chair. My knees are soft. I'm going to hold the back of my chair. The weight is down and I will roll up. I'm just going to pause my clock briefly. If you're performing the movement seated, what I want you to do is take your weights, sit forward, lean my body so I'm not bending, I tilt and I roll from a seated position. So if you're not happy with the standing version that I show, I want you to perform it from a seated position. Okay, if however you're comfortable, we will perform, and I'll set it up again from standing. Foot away from the chair, knees are soft, holding on with my left hand. Just going to push those hips back a little bit so my upper body is straight, it's not bending. and I begin rowing that weight up, pulling low into my tummy. So I have support from my chair. Typically, rowing movements can be difficult for people. If I was to do the 2 weights standing, we might find this one quite difficult. I'm not looking to be perfectly parallel to the floor. You can see how my body just kind of slopes upwards, it tilts, but my body is straight. It's not bending at all in this position, so it's straight. I pull that weight low into my tummy, not high up into the chest. So pulling that weight low, tucking the elbow in, getting a nice squeeze as I pull back. The way I like to think of this one is tucking my elbow into my back pocket. So imagine trying to tuck your elbow into your back pocket, and that will get a really nice connection with your back. And rest. Same setup for the opposite side. If seated, I want you to do another set from the seated position. So now it's in my left hand, right hand on the chair, my knees are soft. You can see my body is straight, and I begin pulling the weight low into my tummy. Again, I'm pulling the weight low as opposed to high up into my chest. Nice and low into my tummy. And again, I like to think of tucking my elbow into my back pocket. And that way I get a really nice squeeze and connection with my back. I appreciate there's a little bit of setup here. It can take a little bit of practice to kind of get a movement like this feeling perfect. But once you feel strong, once my back feels good, I don't feel in a kind of compromised position, and I can feel a little bit of connection as I pull the weight back, then I'm happy with this one. And it really is important that we don't neglect the back of our body. We want an important, nice, strong back. Last couple of reps. And rest, okay? Really good work. That's your first round finished. What I would always say after you complete one round of a circuit is just have a little check with yourself. Was there any movement there that you didn't like or caused pain? So if it caused pain, immediately just to change the exercise. If it was maybe just a little bit difficult, maybe you prefer a seated adaptation instead of standing. But if everything felt okay, we will go again with the same movements. So starting in about 30 seconds time, back to the start. So again, if you're not liking my sit to stand with arm curl, remember you can go to leg extension and arm curl instead here. If, however, you're comfortable, I want you to walk forward a little bit, feet in a good strong position, hip width, body is straight, chest out, lean forward nice and tall, curl the weights, and then I'll sit back to my chair. And as I said, I'm just leading this as a sit to stand today. If you are very comfortable and competent with the movement and want to squat, i.e. not tapping the chair, that's fine. But I think just with the nature of this movement, it's worth taking the sit down and just to keep me in control, because this is quite a dynamic movement. I'm standing up from that chair and adding my arm curl into movement. So just to kind of keep me on track, that I don't start bouncing up and down or losing control. I'm just taking the full seat as I come down. Breathing all the time. Lean forward nice and tall. Curling the weight. Go at a pace that's comfortable. It's not about matching what you see in front. Just go at a pace that's good for you. So you can take a little bit longer break between each rep if you need. Just never going too fast on this one. And last rep. And down. Excellent start. So, second movement. Working those hips again. Actually, just if from a seated position, remember again, lift right leg out and back in. Just not dragging the foot. And that will work the hip in the same way. If we're standing, I want you to hold the back of your chair. Body is tall. Lifting right leg out. Keeping your toes pointed ahead. And if you're finding this movement is quite comfortable, I want you to not really rest for too long as you return in. So as soon as that foot comes out, straight back in. Or as soon as it comes in, straight back out. So not resting your foot for long. If I rest here for long, you'll just take some of that tension off. So if you're finding this quite comfortable, choosing not to stay for too long in your base position, just bringing it straight back out. Toes faced forward, upper body stays strong. And we'll just keep this one going. You're doing really well. Lifting that right leg out. Again, what I'd often say to people is if you feel your standing leg working, that's not wrong. It is also working. It's keeping you strong and stable in this position. And rest. So I'm just going to shake it out. I always say people do whatever feels good. Just when you work the hip like that for a prolonged time, it just feels a little bit tight when we come out of it, but then starts to feel good. So just shake the legs out. Little jig on the spot. Honestly, anything at all. Just get the legs moving. Now, left leg, holding back at the chair, toes faced forward. Let's begin. Lifting that left leg out. Again, I think it's worth just holding on to the chair, just giving me that little bit of support. I'm keeping my toes pointed straight ahead, and that upper body is keeping its shape. So I'm not leaning over to the right here and losing control. All the work is from my hip. And again, just giving myself that little bit of challenge. I'm choosing not to rest for very long as I return the foot in. Just straight back out, putting a little bit of work through that left side. Again, might start to feel that right leg. It's working as well. That hip is keeping me strong, stable. More load through this right leg. More weight of my body on that right leg. So it's not wrong if you're feeling your standing leg here. We are working, challenging that left side as well through the movement. And last couple of seconds. And down. Brilliant. Again, back to our one arm row. Just going to demonstrate the seated version again. Remember, if you didn't like the standing one I showed, you can sit forward. Upper body is tall and I lean. I make sure I'm not bending. I tilt the body and I pull the weights in nice and low. Just pulling the weights in. If we're okay, we will go from our standing position. About a foot away from the chair, knees are soft, holding on with my spare left hand. My back is straight, and I begin pulling the weight. So I'm not bending my back. I'm going to keep that head in line with my body, so I'm not staring up at the ceiling, and I'm not tucking my chin to my chest. I just keep the head relaxed in line with my body. I'm pulling that weight low into my tummy. And again, I can think of tucking my elbow into my back pocket. Again, that's just my little tip here, just to really get a nice squeeze and connection. So instead of flaring your elbow out wide, think of or imagine tucking it physically into your back pocket. That's what I'm trying to do as I pull that weight up. Position. I like being at a slight angle here, so you'll see how my body kind of naturally elevates upwards. I'm not perfectly flat and parallel to the floor. There's a slight tilt upwards, and that for me is a perfect angle when working the back. I'll get one more rep and down. So I'll just reset. Again, if you're seated, I want you to go for a second set. Really worth giving that bit of attention to your back. If standing, set up on the opposite side. Knees are soft, right hand on the chair. And again, you'll see how my body just kind of raises upwards naturally, but it's straight. Pull the weight in, back down. So weight into my tummy. Again, thinking of tucking that elbow into my back pocket. Squeeze and slowly lower the weight back down. Again, I just want to keep my head neutral here. It just feels in a comfortable position. I'm not staring up at the ceiling and I'm not tucking that chin really tight to my chest. Just going to keep it natural in line with my spine here. Again, pulling the weight slowly into my tummy and thinking of tucking my elbow into my back pocket. So I'm not letting that elbow go out really wide here. I'm pulling low into the tummy, not high up to the chest. I breathe out as I pull the weight in, and I inhale as I lower. And rest. So just walk out. That's your second round finished. We will do 1/3 final round. Again, just take a little water break. Again, just always check in with yourself again. How does that feel? Is it easy? Is it hard? If the movements feel okay, but you're just finding it a little bit tough, maybe just slow it down a little bit. An easy tip I always say to people, if the movements are good, but you're just finding it's a little bit hard, I say do every second repetition with me, and that will just bring it back under control. If you prefer to do anything seated, just to do it seated instead. And most important, if the movement causes pain, do just leave it out. Don't persist. Everyone is different. So if the movement just isn't good for you, do change that exercise. So let's go one last round, starting in about 30 seconds here. Putting the clock on. Third, final round. And if you find this third one a little bit tougher, again, no pressure. We're doing a lot of good work today. Seated adaptation first. Leg extension, arm curl. So leg extension, arm curl. If, however, we're okay with our sit to stand, I want to sit forward a little bit in my chair. Feet about hip width and a kind of good strong position. They're not out in front. I pull them back. They're in a good strong position to press me up. Chest out. Stand up nice and tall. Rotate and curl the weight. Back to the chair. Again, I'm leading this as a sit to stand today. I think just with the squat, it's just going to make it very difficult. We might progress up to that in time. But I think just for today, just to get that idea of adding two movements together, I think we'll just break it up with a full sit. I keep my knees in line with my toes, and my back is straight as I stand up. So I just naturally tilt forward, pressing through my legs, and then curling the weights at the top. And back down. Again, if you're finding the movement a little bit difficult, you could take the arm curl. Just focus on a sit to stand, or maybe just focusing on an arm curl. You can always adapt, change these movements, make them your own, whatever works best. And curl. Good start. Second movement. Working the hips. Again, if in a seated position, remember just to lift the leg out, back in without the rest of your body moving. So working that hip by stepping out to the side. If standing, holding back in my chair, lifting the right leg out. My toes face forward towards the camera, and I'm just lifting out. Upper body stays strong, and I'm just lifting directly to my side. And again, just keeping it going. Just very mindful now in this third round that I keep that shape, that I don't start to do this. So subconsciously, we might start to do that. And it'll actually be taking some of the workload off the hip. We want to keep that body stuck in position and all the work from my hip as I lift out. Starting to feel that standing leg quite active as well. That hip is keeping me strong and balanced in this position. Again, I'm not resting for very long. I just go straight out as soon as that foot has come into that base position. Straight out, straight out. And rest. Okay, so after that, I just like to shake the legs out. Just doing a little jig, as I always say. Honestly, anything at all, shake the legs. Just walk it out. Just get the legs flowing after that one. Now, onto the left side. So again, back of the chair, tall, and let's begin. Left leg. Keeping your toes faced forward to the camera, and just lifting the left leg out. Again, very mindful. I'm not losing shape here. I'm not putting any kind of power in like this. Keeping my shape. All the work from the hip. And not wrong if you're feeling that standing leg. It's starting to feel tired now. It's working hard, that hip, to keep me balanced and strong in this position. As this left side also continues to work and move here. Lifting out to the sides. Again, that for me, I'm not letting my foot rest for very long, just to give myself that little bit of extra challenge. but rest for longer, as I demonstrate here, if needed. If you're finding it's getting a little bit, you're running out of a bit of steam, that's okay. Slow it down. Remember, you can do every second repetition with me. And rest. Brilliant stuff. Now, rowing again. I just want to demonstrate, because I know sometimes people do find these rowing movements difficult. So you can sit for this one. Lean your body forward. I'm not bending. And just pull the two weights. Low into tummy. Just pulling the weights. Slowly up. If standing, I want you to go about a foot away from the chair. Left hand is on. My knees are soft. And I begin pulling that weight. So you'll see how my back is straight. It naturally tilts upwards, but it's straight. I'm not bent at all in this position. And that's really important. If you're bending the spine here, it'll feel tight, uncomfortable, and sore. And we don't want that. So I should be able to maintain a nice straight back. And if we can't, or we're not really sure, I would suggest the seated version. Again, just making sure your knees are soft. If my legs were straight here, it's going to be harder for me to achieve this position. So again, pulling the weight low into my tummy, thinking of tucking the elbow into my back pocket. So really good exercise for the back. Big, strong muscle in our back, trying to connect as I pull the weight in, low into my tummy. So a nice low position as you pull the weight in. Last couple of reps, and one more, and down. So I'll reset position, weight into my left hand. Again, knees are soft, important. Right hand on the chair, and my body is tilted, so it's nice and straight. I'm not looking to be flat to the ground. I'm going to naturally arch up on this one, but straight. Pull the weight in, lower back down. Again, I like to exhale as I pull the weight up. Inhale as I lower the weight down. Weight pulling into my tummy, tucking elbow into my back pocket. Pull back and squeeze. Tucking elbow into your back pocket. Again, my back is straight. I'm not bending it at all. And I'm really just trying to connect with my back, the back of my body, elbow into back pocket, pulling that weight into your tummy. Nice squeeze. I'm going to go with the last couple of repetitions, whether seated or standing. We're doing really good. Let's just finish out last couple of reps if comfortable. And last one. And rest. So I'll just walk it back in and lower my two weights. Okay, so that is your circuit finished. Again, drink of water, important. All that's left for us to do now is just to cool down, take a couple of stretches. I'll just lead this from a seated position so that it's universal. We can all do this. So, first movement, and this is important. We work quite hard. I think that aerobic block of work, we did fantastic work. We did 3 rounds of our strength work as well. Really fantastic. We worked back, we worked legs, we worked arms, we worked hips. So many different things today. So it's important that I just signal to my body to rest now. So a nice one to start with. Very simple, just straighten the right leg out. I want you to pull the toes into your body and stretching out that calf, back and lower leg. So pulling the toes in. I want to spend a little bit of time in each stretch. So I don't want to rapidly run through them. Stay in the position. Might be a little bit of a shake in the leg. You're just stretching out, relaxing the muscles. So holding that position. And then rest down. Swap, left leg. Pull the toes in. So I'm stretching that calf. I'm allowing blood flow into that area, allowing time for it to stretch and relax. So I don't want to just rush through 5 seconds. I want to hold this position for a bit of time. And that just gives the body a chance to just start relaxing down. And rest. Perfect. Next movement. I want to bring my right knee up, holding on to that knee and gently raise up towards chest. So for me, this is really nice on the lower back and a nice straight position. That knee has been raised up, so might feel a little stretch of the glute, and we also might feel the hip, especially after a lot of the work we've done today. So I want to hang out in this position again, staying here for a little bit of time. We don't want to rush through. I should say any questions, any issues in the comments, please do let me know. Just if you're finding the session really difficult or very easy, please do let me know. But again, it's a lot of it's about choice and just kind of picking the adaptations, the level that works best. But any feedback, always welcome. And now, swap sides. Again, just reset the position when you feel comfortable. Left knee up, holding on to that left knee. And gently raise that knee up towards chest, as high as comfortable. Again, my back is nice and straight. It feels very nice. Might feel my glute and might feel my hip a little bit, as I say, especially after the work we did today, a lot of hip movements. I'm just holding position and spending a little bit of time in this stretch. I'm just going to get the most benefit if I stay for a little bit of time here, giving my body a chance to relax, stretch out some of the muscles, a little bit of blood flow into the areas. And back down. Great. Just moving to upper body. Just want to bring the arms out by our sides, hands face forward, and pull back. So I'm going to stretch or open out this chest position by pulling my arms slowly back. And again, I just want to stay in position. Just holding as we are, another couple of seconds here. Just holding that stretch. And relax down, just reset. Again, once more, arms by side, pull back, puff the chest out, and let's just hold that stretch. Again, not so harshly on the pull back that it's like really tight or you're really shaking, but just a little bit of a stretch in this chest position. And back down. Next, if I bring fingers together, and straighten the arms out. So the palms of my hands are faced forward, away from my body. If the fingers together is awkward, just put one hand on top of the other. And this is how it should look, that my arms are pushed out, stretched out in front, kind of away from my body. And that's just to stretch out the upper back position. So you might feel shoulders, upper back with this one. A couple of seconds longer, back in. And once more, straighten back out. Arms straight, hands faced forward, stretching out position. Again, just hanging out here for a couple of seconds. Longer, we don't want to rush through. Just allowing a little bit of time to stretch, relax everything down. And rest. Final stretch. I'm just going to work the shoulders. So I might just slightly tilt forward, arms by my side, and just pull back. Okay, so my arms are straight now, pulled back, and I'm just looking to connect with the shoulder a little bit on each side. Again, I'm just going to stay holding my position. And back down. And then reset again. Straight arms, pull back, and my body is just tilting forward a little bit. It doesn't matter if I'm straight, that's okay, but I just like to tilt forward a little bit onto this one, and then just pull the arms back, far as comfortable, holding stretch. And back down. Brilliant stuff. Now, the final part that I always like to add in just is a little bit of relaxation. I just want you to inhale through the nose and just double the time on the exhale. So a nice slow release of air. And just finally as well, any feedback, any questions at all, please do just let me know. So in through the nose, slow exhale out the mouth. And inhale through nose, nice slow exhale out the mouth. And again. Just going to do one more. said one more, but I meant two. I like about 5. So I'll do one more. Slow exhale. Okay, so that's your class today. Thanks so much for tuning in. As ever, appreciate any kind of feedback. Sorry at the start. I know sometimes it's just a little bit awkward and we might have to restart the link. It's just the way it is sometimes with technology. But thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your week, and anything at all, just let me know. And we'll be back next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So great work, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your week. Hey, thanks a lot, Mary Claire. Appreciate the feedback. And thanks, Michelle, for looking after everything as well. Thanks.